What is up, people? You are listening in to the New Generation Sports Talk Podcast. I am your host, EJ Stewart, and we got a great show lined up for you guys today because it is our NFL preview show. I'm so excited about the NFL season getting going. Obviously, summer ending. You guys know how much I love summer, but now we're heading into the fall, and one of the great silver linings is that football is back. I loved watching the college football games this past weekend, loved doing the college football preview last weekend, and now getting to talk NFL this week. Really a great sign of things to come for this fall season. Joining me is my co-host, starting with Shamari Stewart. Sham, football is back, baby. Let's get it.
Football season is here, EJ. Very excited. Like you said, these college football games have been crazy so far, so they're already getting me amped and ready for this season of football. This is NFL. Smash Mouth football. Very excited.
Yeah, man, very excited. Like I said, we're gonna be going through all the divisions in just a minute, but let's kick it off right now. And we're recording this podcast on a Tuesday night, so the Thursday game hasn't happened yet from when we're recording this. So the first game of the season will feature a marquee clash between the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams, and they're at home. They're at SoFi Stadium, where they won their Super Bowl trophy, and they're facing the odds-on favorite to win this year's Super Bowl trophy, that being the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Rams come back this season with rings on their fingers, but some question marks heading into the new year. Matt Stafford dealing with this elbow injury. We know he's got to be getting these injections throughout the year. There's been limited participation from him in training camp. There's been concerns about whether or not this injury will linger throughout the entire season. They're also absorbing the loss of Von Miller, who, by the way, now is on the other side playing for the Buffalo Bills here in Week 1. And then they're hoping that Allen Robinson, a wide receiver who was a star for many years but kind of became a forgotten man in the last few years in that wasteland that is the Chicago Bears offense, they're hoping he can become an adequate replacement for Odell Beckham Jr., who, by the way, Sham, I don't know if you saw it, does still have a place in the locker room. They didn't clear out his name yet in the locker. Like they're apparently ready to bring him back whenever he's ready to come back, but he is not signed with the team quite yet. Right now, it's Allen Robinson's role to fill opposite Cooper Kupp. So a lot of question marks for the Los Angeles Rams. Meanwhile, the Bills, a lot riding into this season for them. They're a team that, coughed up what would have been an epic playoff win against the Kansas City Chiefs, but the defense couldn't get off the field in overtime or towards the end of that game. They also had some big acquisitions through free agency, through the draft, and there's an expectation that QB Josh Allen will be able to take the Buffalo Bills to heights that they haven't reached in many years, talking about the Super Bowl, of course. So, Shamari, starting with these two teams right here, I think it's a really apropos matchup to kick off the NFL season, to really have any conversations previewing the NFL season, because these are the two teams everybody wants to talk about. In your estimation, should the Bills and Rams be favored to represent their conferences in the Super Bowl this year?
The Bills and the Rams be favored to represent their conference. Favorited? Mm-hmm. I don't. So the Rams, yes, probably. I mean, okay. That I would say, just in terms of like just being the favorites going in. I mean, they're the champs, and they still have a crazy roster, so I definitely think they should be. The Bills, I mean, the AFC is getting a little getting very competitive, much more competitive than it has been previously. It's no longer just the Chiefs and then everybody else. Now it's just everybody else. Right, honestly, yeah. It's very, very much more evenly matched, to the point where even their own division isn't even really a lock for them anymore. So we'll see. I think we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I go the opposite. I think for me, the Bills, I would say yes. I think they should be favored to come out of the AFC. The AFC is a gauntlet. It is brutal. But we'll talk a little bit about kind of how I see the season playing out. But one of the main reasons why I think the Bills should be favored in the AFC is because of how much better they are than everybody in their division, the AFC East. Because remember, in order to really be favored to go to the Super Bowl, probably want to win the conference, probably want to become the number one seed heading into the AFC playoffs to get that home field advantage. They want to play in Orchard Park in that, frigid, zero temperature, possible snow kind of weather. and they're in great position to do that. I think that we'll talk about the AFC East later in the show. I think there's reason for optimism for some of these teams in the AFCs, but I don't think there's any real expectation that these teams will be able to match up with the Bills and possibly win that division. I was a fool picking the Dolphins to win that division last year. I think you can hear right now, I'm not doing that again this year. So when you look at those other teams and the teams that are comparable in talent, the Bengals are a really talented team. Of course, they won the Super Bowl last year. Chiefs are still very talented. The Broncos just got Russell Wilson. We know about the Ravens. We know about the Chargers. We know about the Chiefs, of course. Who they still have Patrick Mahomes, even though they lost Tyreek Hill. So those teams are going to beat up on each other in many ways. The teams in the North are going to beat up on each other. The teams in the West are going to beat up on each other. And the Bills don't really have anybody to dance with. As a dance partner that's really going to possibly take 2 or 3 games from them within the division. So I think the Bills, yes, I think they are the favorites to come out of the AFC because of their talent, one, but also just how the schedule is going to break for them. But then when you look on the NFC, that's where I pause. Should the Rams be the favorite? Maybe, but I think that there's a lot more questions about the Rams than I think maybe some other people are willing to give credit for. I think that, for one, automatic Super Bowl hangover. I mean, just there are so many teams where they win a Super Bowl, and because you saw them get to the mountaintop, the impetus is to just be, well, they're going to do it again because we saw them do it last year. We know they had the capability, and we know they had the talent. And if they bring back a lot of their roster, if they don't have any super major departures, though they do have a few, then you think, well, of course they should be the favorite to come back. But just the way history works, that doesn't normally happen. I don't know how many times we see Super Bowl winners come back the next year and don't win the division, don't even make the playoffs. So I think maybe it's a little bit of a weird answer, but I almost feel like just because of just the way the history has worked, I can't say for sure, yes, the Rams are definitely the favorites, especially given some of the concerns with Matt Stafford, who I do think this elbow injury could potentially be a problem for them throughout this year. They have no other answer for him if somehow he has to miss games or he can't play up to his normal capabilities. Now, do I think the NFC East has world beaters? No. I think that a lot of it is kind of projecting that some of these other teams that maybe also have issues or maybe are kind of on the upswing can maybe take a bigger leap than most people are expecting. So it's either, the Bucs and the Packers surviving the injuries, the attrition lost through free agency, that they could, somehow overtake them. Or it's a team like, the 49ers where Trey Lance takes a step that nobody expects. Or the Eagles where Jalen Hurts takes a step that nobody expects. Or, some other team comes out of nowhere like the Vikings or someone like that and say this is a team that has talent, but, they just need a new coach. So I think on the surface, I can understand making them the favorites, but I'm not necessarily bullish on the Rams because it just was a weird offseason. Will McVay, stay or go. Aaron Donald saying, I may retire. Okay, you gave me money, I'll come back, but I'm going to be swinging helmets the next time I get into training camp. Stafford with this elbow thing. I just don't feel great about where the Rams stand right now. So Bills, yes. Rams, will be my answer to that question.
I don't know. I don't feel as tepid on the Rams. They still have a loaded roster, and for me, I think what really ended up shining, and of course they still have Aaron Donald, who's just going to be Aaron Donald. We know that for a fact. And for me, I feel like they still got Stafford and they still got Cooper Kupp, and those are just factors that I think are just, I don't know. Of course they still got Ramsey. They're still stacked, and I don't know. They are going to be riding high for sure. Super Bowl hangover, absolutely. But I don't know. It's something. I wouldn't say something feels different. I wouldn't necessarily say something feels totally different about these teams because we've seen other great teams go down. But just in terms of are they the favorite, I feel like they got to be the favorite. Partially, like you said, because they're just in their conference. There's no one else there that you can clearly point to and say, right? No, they could definitely take them down. It was the exception of possibly Brady. That's kind of the only Brady, and the rest of the Bucs which is basically how
who's
I see
who's ever left standing.
Yeah, basically, Brady and everybody else on that team. Those are kind of the only ones. But outside of that, it's just them for me. And like you said, I'm kind of the opposite when it comes to Buffalo. I gotta see what I know. People don't have faith in Tua, don't have faith in Mac. I don't know. They're getting, particularly too. They're trying to stack these teams, and I got to see what they do. I got to see. I don't see the Bills as being. I don't see the Bills as being as kind of unbeatable or like front runners, particularly when it comes to the postseason. Josh Allen kind of gets his deer in headlights kind of thing, and
yeah, you can't say that about him last year though. You can't say that about him last year.
Yeah, he was trying last year.
In that game against Kansas City, he was putting on a show.
Yeah, he was going last year, but we gotta see. I don't know. I feel like we gotta see. I still have to see it from Josh Allen, so we'll see.
All right, so we'll get to more conversation about the AFC East later on in the show. But I actually want to talk about the most talked about division in the AFC right now, really in the league right now, as we race through these divisions on this preview show. I want to talk about the arms race that took place in the AFC West this offseason. And it has many thinking that this division will for sure have the most competition. So the Broncos added QB Russell Wilson. They've already linked him to a big extension. Now he has all those talented stable of skill players. They have that talented defense that's already intact. So Broncos looking like an interesting team. You got Devontae Adams, much to Shamari's chagrin. Now he'll be catching balls from Raiders QB Derek Carr as the Raiders look to take another step after making the playoffs last year. But now they have a new coach in Josh McDaniel. The Chargers adding J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack to a defense that was a little spotty last year, that struggled especially against the run. Not sure how much those guys stop the run, but those are extremely talented players to add to their defense for sure. And now they hope that Justin Herbert really takes that next step into superstardom. And of course, you got the Chiefs Kingdom. At the end of the day, the AFC West runs through the Kansas City Chiefs. We know what Patrick Mahomes has done. We know what kind of roster they have, but they did lose some really kind of linchpin players for that franchise. When you think about Tyreek Hill on offense, think about Tyrann Mathieu on defense, though they did replace him with a good player in Justin Reed. A lot of questions about the Chiefs, but nonetheless a team you cannot ignore. So I'll toss this to you, Sham. I want to make it simple because this is a division where I don't think beating around in the bush matters in terms of the conversation. Who is winning the AFC West?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's very, very tight. I'm gonna start out and say not the Chiefs. The Chiefs has kind of just been on the downturn, particularly last year, and that was even with Tyreek. Now they don't have Tyreek, and it's like, oh boy, all right. So, Mahomes is really gonna be tested. I think we're getting somebody new. Honestly, I'm gonna go with. You know what? I'm gonna go with Vegas.
Wow.
I'm gonna go with Vegas. And I know that may not be the most popular pick. I think they have. I think Derek Carr is gonna. I think he's gonna kind of finally make his case for no. This is my time. For this division, I would say. He now has that receiver where it's like, no, just throw him the ball. Like that reliable any down receiver. And the boy, I just feel like the Raiders because they have the roster kind of, they have solid players at damn near every position, solid players. So I'm thinking Vegas, and then I feel like the Broncos have a decent shot as well, but I think Vegas is going to do it.
Wow. I'm a little surprised you took Vegas. I feel like most people are looking at Vegas as the fourth team, maybe not necessarily a diss to them, but just kind of looking at where things stack and saying, this team, while talented, and they just added an absolute monster wide receiver in Davante Adams, one of my favorite players to watch in all of the NFL season every year. Still a team that has some holes. I think that their defense was not great last year. They could get to the passer, but they really couldn't do anything else. They didn't cover great. They didn't start to run great. So you have a defense that is kind of suspect, and while they did make the upgrades offensively, I don't think they really did much to their defense to make you really excited about that side of the ball. And while the skill players on offense are tremendous, like I said, you mentioned Davante Adams. We could talk about Renfro. We could talk about Walls. I'm not necessarily out completely on like Josh Jacobs at running back. And Kenyon Drake is a good player. So I mean, they got studs in terms of position players. But then my question is, what is the offensive line? I mean, they just cut or put on waivers Alex Leatherwood, that terrible first round pick they made a couple of years ago. And their offensive line has struggled, and I have questions about whether or not they'll be able to actually get the ball to Davante Adams because of that. They're playing in a division where there are fierce pass rushers in that division. We talk about Jones in Kansas City. We talk about Bosa and now Khalil Mack in LA. Denver has a vaunted defense. I think they may have some problems when it comes to protection, and that's kind of why I can't go all in on Vegas. For me, I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers. I agree with you. I'm really out on the Chiefs right now, at least in terms of winning the division. And the reason why I'm going with the Chargers is because I think when you look at all these four teams, for me, I'm gonna give more credence to the team that has the most continuity coming into this season. Like, as much as we love the talent in Vegas, like I said, they are bringing in a new coach. Yep. Their defense is still shoddy. Like, they still have some weird kind of holes they kind of have to figure out. They're hoping that the talent can kind of make up for some of these other holes and some of the things they have to catch up with when it comes to the new coach, new system, and stuff like that. With Kansas City, there's continuity in terms of the coach and quarterback, but again, big leader on defense gone in Tyrann Mathieu. Huge weapon on offense gone with Tyreek Hill. And I don't really love who they replaced them with. I like the draft pick of Sky Moore, but I'm not really feeling those veteran guys they brought in. Valdez Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, those guys are, decent but really overall ordinary players. So they got to get adjusted to what it's like not having this nuclear weapon in Tyreek Hill in their offense. And the Broncos, really talented roster again, but new quarterback, new coach, new feel. I don't think it's going to be just this seamless, we just step on the field, we just stomping everybody for these three teams. I think that there's going to be some growing pains. And I look at the Los Angeles Chargers, they don't have that. I don't love the coach, but he's still there at least. We know Justin Herbert's still there. The offense is pretty much entirely intact. The defense has the same coaching staff, has the same everything, and they just added guys to help the guys that they already had. They weren't replacing players with other players. It's not like Khalil Mack's coming in to replace Joey Bosa. They're playing together. You know what I'm saying? So they're not replacing Asante Samuel Jr. with J.C. Jackson. Asante Samuel Jr. and Jackson are on the same field together. So the parts of their team that needed a boost, they got the boost, and the rest of the team that was already strong, they're still intact. So I think the Chargers, at least in the regular season, are going to come in. I think they're going to come in like gangbusters. I mean, when you look at their roster, man, I don't know how people run to the Bills and say they're the most talented roster. I know the Chargers didn't make the playoffs, and we all know why. But I don't know how you don't look at the Chargers and say that team absolutely might have the most talented roster. I'm looking at Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler at running back, Justin Herbert, Corey Linsley's playing center. They got Rashawn Slater at left tackle. He had a great rookie year. Bosa, Mack, Kenneth Murray at linebacker, J.C. Jackson now, Asante Samuel Jr., Derwin James has signed a massive deal. They got a squad. So I'm really high on the Chargers, and right now they're my pick to win the division. I think the fact that they don't have to worry about some massive changeover in regime and scheme and in system, and they already have a talented roster to begin with. And I think last year's experience will go a long way. They coughed it up last year, no question about it. I think they lost a game to the Texans last year down the stretch, and of course that terrible disaster of a last drive against the Raiders last year. I think they'll learn from that. I think you'll see them grow.
My only hang up with the Chargers, and this is, I struggle to even call it a hang up. I think it's just more of a, is he ready? Honestly, it's Herbert, and it's not that I don't think he can win. It's, I don't know what it is. Is he? I feel it's almost like, is he ready to win now? You know, I feel like Carr is a ready to win right now, bring you deep into the playoffs quarterback. And Herbert, it has all the talent in the world, but I want to, is he there yet? And I don't know if he is. He has the talent to be there, but is he there in every other aspect? Intangibles, like leading a roster, you know, just pushing your team, like how we saw Burrow do, both at LSU and in Cincinnati. Just gutting just pushing your team through on your back through the postseason. And or just quite frankly, just barreling through a regular season. I don't know. You know, I know the Raiders just got a new coach, of course. I feel like McDaniels. I feel like he's gonna. I don't know. I feel he's gonna bring some fresh ideas, some juice to this team. New offense, kind of better schemes. I mean, they have guys.
I am pro, and I know McDaniels had a bad run in his first run as a head coach. I am pro the fit of Josh McDaniels and the Las Vegas Raiders. I am. You know, like this is a squad. They're going to score. They're going to score a lot of points. I mean, if there was ever a team where he had toys to play with, I mean, this is the team where he's got plenty of toys to play with. So this might be the most weapons he's had to use.
Yeah, a lot of us.
I was gonna say maybe since like he was running with Randy Moss and Wes Welker and them boys in New England. Them boys.
He has the best receiver in the league, or arguably, well, a lot of people think is the best wide receiver in the entire league.
Yeah.
Along with very good, you know, other receivers, even though they lost a couple of guys as well, of course. But it's, you know, this roster has a lot of talent, so I could see them. I see them going pretty far. I'm seeing Carr kind of just being in a different state of mind. The team has just been very turbulent. It's been so turbulent in Vegas for the past, you know, couple years, and I think McDaniels is going to bring some stability, some fresh ideas, and some just more energy to the team, to the city. I think this is just a different energy in Vegas, and I think it's going to lead them through this division, which is still going to be a gauntlet anyway.
What are your thoughts on the Broncos? We talked a lot about the other three teams. Where do you stand on them?
Yeah, like I said, I think the Broncos are the next team for me. Not that the Chargers aren't stacked as well, but you know, I mean, even just looking at, you know, even just their depth chart, I mean, it's just, you know, pick your poison. I mean, of course they got Russ, which that's its own thing, right? I mean, he is what I'm sure many people would argue could be the best quarterback in the division already. They still have, of course, Devontae.
Well, I don't think anybody argue he's better than Mahomes. I'm gonna slow that down.
Well, all right. I mean, fair enough.
I'm gonna slow that. I'm gonna slow that roll.
I mean, I think he could have a better year. You know, I think he could have a better year than Mahomes. I'll say that right now. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I think, you know, I think he's on a much better team. And
I'm not feeling it.
I'm not feeling that. I'm sorry.
I think he's. I'm just saying. I don't think Mahomes is gonna have as good of a year. He's gonna run into some buzzsaws. I was looking at the Chiefs' schedule. I mean, they have a very hard schedule.
They do.
They might not make the playoffs. I'm not necessarily.
Wow.
I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but there's a lot of potential L's on that schedule. So
yeah, I don't like their schedule either. I mean, you know, neither of us.
Very hard.
Yeah, neither of us picked the Chiefs.
If he struggles this year, or if he goes on those slumps that he went on last year, they could lose like 3, 4, 5 straight. Like if you just,
I mean, look, they start the year. Let's give the people a schedule. They start the year, at Arizona, home against the Chargers on Thursday night, at Indy, at Tampa, Vegas at home, Buffalo, at San Francisco, bye week, then home against Tennessee, and the first like obvious W is November 13th against Jacksonville. Now, they're a very good team. So I'm not saying they can't win
Right.
5 of those games or whatever. Like, them teams got to play Kansas City too. But like I'm saying, like the first game where I'm like, okay, they're washing this team is Tennessee in November.
If they were to go like 2-6, I wouldn't be like, oh man, they're a trash team. I'd be like, I mean, they had it. Those are a lot of tough teams they were playing. This is the NFL.
And the back half of the schedule gets easier, but it's not easy. I mean, they got to play Chargers again. They got to play the Rams. They got to play Denver. I think they're going to miss Cleveland December 4th, so they'll miss Deshaun Watson's return, so they get lucky there. They actually got to play Denver twice, and they got to play Vegas again. Now, they do get Seattle. They do get Houston. They do get Cleveland without Deshaun. They get Jacksonville, as I mentioned. So there are a lot of wins. There are wins there at the end there. But it's not even like, oh, we could just rattle off 6-7 wins in a row. In the end, we'll be fine. So a strong start for KC is going to be important. That's why I mentioned that having all that, turnover and trying to kind of figure yourself out. Like, you can't learn yourself in that schedule. This isn't a let's figure out who we are as a team schedule to start the year. I mean, you're starting out just with bangers to start the year from jump. And I think, with Denver, they start the year, they start Seattle and Houston to start the year. I mean, you want to talk about figure yourself out. I mean, I don't think there's two teams you'd rather play more to say, okay, let's ease our way into the season. Now, it does get tricky after that. Vegas, Indy, the Chargers. But then they get the Jets and Jacksonville. So, and their bye weeks is the same one as Kansas City. So, they're in a situation where they got 5 wins just in the bag. I'm looking at their schedule. So, So, yeah, I understand the trepidation for the Chiefs and the reason why you're liking the Broncos there. I could definitely see that. But let's move on to the next division I want to talk about in the AFC. Let's talk about the AFC North. It's another competitive division in this conference. It had a little bit of a surprise winner in the Cincinnati Bengals, but the other teams in that division are undergoing some major changes coming into this year. So Ben Roethlisberger is retired. He's gone from Pittsburgh, and for now, Mitchell Trubisky takes the reins at QB for the Steelers. We'll see when our buddy Kenny Pickett takes the reins there, but for now, it is Mitchell Trubisky's show. In Cleveland, for now, it's Jacoby Brissett's show until Deshaun Watson returns from his 11-game suspension. And in Baltimore, they'll have the same QB. Lamar Jackson is still there, but he doesn't have a contract as of when we're recording this podcast. And he said week 1 is the deadline, and we are at week 1 pretty much. So maybe he's playing without a new deal. How does that fit in for a Baltimore team that I think is actually really excited about maybe a revamped defense? They fired Wink Martindale, who I know had success there, but the Baltimore defense really seemed to fall off last year. And they just they signed Marcus Williams at safety. I thought that was a really underrated signing this year, and they drafted Kyle Hamilton. So the safety is looking a lot different. Baltimore looking to have a little more speed, a little more athleticism on defense. So when you look at this division, Sham, with so much turnover happening in the North, are the Bengals the front runner in your eyes to take this division again?
Yes, they are. Yeah, in my opinion, they are. I mean, just for all the reasons that they went to the Super Bowl last year. Jamar Chase is a complete star. Joe Burrow is a complete star, which we were even able to see his first year, even though the Bengals didn't win many games. We could see there was a lot there already. And they've got a lot of. I think there's just a different energy in Cincinnati. They have the right pieces in the right places. They're not a perfect roster by any stretch of the imagination, but they have a lot of skill and they have a lot of speed. They have a decent secondary. They have good linemen, and they're trying to shore up the line for Burrow. I mean, I think, yeah, I would be a little shocked if the Bengals didn't win the division. Honestly, I think they're kind of really kind of planting their flag, and I think Zach Taylor is he's just turning himself into a made man every day in Cincinnati. So yeah, I think Cincinnati's going to take the division pretty swiftly this year.
In the great words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Shout out to Lee Corso. Hope he's doing well. I know there's been a lot of clips circulating with him not doing so great on College Game Day, but Lee Corso, an icon. I want to make sure to shout him out.
Yes.
Not so fast, my friend. I really think that coming into this season, look, I was all in on the Bengals' resurgence last season. Not necessarily winning the division, but to make a lot of noise. I had Jamar Chase on my fantasy team. I had Joe Burrow on my fantasy team. Those guys led me to a fantasy football championship. So I got all the reason to love the Bengals, and I like the Bengals. I still like the Bengals, but I think in navigating this division, navigating this schedule, I think the Ravens are the team I would say with kind of the team that I would kind of forecast as the favorites to come out of the AFC North, and there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, I like what the Bengals did on the offensive line. They revamped it pretty much entirely, which is what was needed. And I think you'll see much better play from that group. But I think I love what the Ravens did defensively. I mean, the Ravens, when you think about them as a unit, it's always been about being able to stop the run, turn people over, and control the clock. And I think what they did defensively, adding Kyle Hamilton, who people were talking about, he's 40. Well, now nobody's really talking about the 40 anymore now that they've seen him on the field. Marcus Williams, again, I thought it's kind of a shame he's kind of known for that disastrous play he made in Minnesota a couple years ago in the playoffs, but became a really good player. And now adding him to that secondary, now you got two studs in the secondary. And I think the return of J.K. Dobbins, you're able to run the ball now. They weren't really able to run the ball with effectiveness. They lost Dobbins and Gus Edwards last year.
Yep.
So Dobbins and Edwards back, Lamar Jackson, that is the real question mark for me is can Lamar Jackson, what's the word I'm looking for, like compartmentalize whatever the situation is going on with the front office. And I don't know what it is. And quite frankly, it's stupid. It's stupid that the Ravens have not just found a way to get a deal done for Lamar Jackson, who's clearly their franchise player. And people say last year was a down year, and yeah, okay, the overall stats tell me that. But there were so many moments last year where Lamar Jackson looked like just a flat-out superstar. I'm still thinking about that Monday Night Football game against the Colts last year. Of course, that was the same game that John Gruden had that scandal happen to him. So we all forgot about the fact that Lamar threw for like 400 yards. He led some insane comeback in that game. Like, Lamar is an absolute stud. And if he can compartmentalize that and use the maybe disrespect he's getting from not getting a contract as motivation, say, all right, now I'm going to show these guys I'm getting paid by somebody, whether it's from them or whether it's somebody else. I think you could see Lamar have a great season. I think you see Lamar get back to that MVP caliber play. And the receiving core, I know they lost Hollywood Brown. I'm not tripping about that. I think that this is a team that at the end of the day is about running the football. And sometimes breaking up friendships, this can be a good thing. Like sometimes, especially with a quarterback and a wide receiver, you kind of get helping on throwing the ball to the same guy over and over again. Like Hollywood Brown wasn't that great a player. He was overrated to begin with. Now they kind of have a clean slate. I don't love Rashad Bateman. Devin Duvernay can fly, so that's some real speed there. So they don't lose speed in that regard. I think that Lamar will be fine. We already know what we got at tight end with Mark Andrews. So I think the improvement of the defense, I think a more focused Lamar Jackson could lead to a Ravens resurgence this year. I'm predicting 12 wins for the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow. All right. Yeah. So, look, it's hard to go against Lamar. Lamar's so talented. But, I mean, for me, it's also hard to go against Cincinnati. It's just one of those things where the quarterback position means so much, and you see what Burrow was able to do with this team, and not just in terms of the talent, which also jumped off your screen, but in terms of just the leadership.
Yeah, the intangibles.
The intangibles. What he did for the team, for the city. He's from Ohio. I mean, it meant so much to everyone there. You just get swept up in it. And I love Lamar. I love Lamar. Fantastic player. But sometimes his body language, when he makes a mistake, when something doesn't go right, it's just a bad aura, you know. Kind of head down, head towel on this on the bench. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and I don't think that's good for the team. You know, and I feel like that does kind of drag down Baltimore a little bit. Um, and again, nothing to say about his talent. He's a fantastic player, but I feel like sometimes he gets in his head a little bit. So I think and so I think that I feel like Joe Burrow, he just got whatever that thing is that you want your quarterback to have, that Mahomes has, that Brady has. He's got that thing where it's just all we're focused on is winning this game, and we're gonna win this game, and I'm gonna help us win this game by doing my job. And you're all gonna do your job, and we're gonna win this game, and that's what's gonna happen, regardless of what happens out there. And not that Lamar doesn't say those things, but sometimes it's just which if you feel like it feels like when something hits him, it's like he's just and it's kind of like, oh my God, here we go, and then it's just it rubs off on everyone. So I feel like the leader in the locker room is going to lead the Bengals through those tough times, whereas the Ravens are going to need more help. And I feel like the roster, to me, it just isn't deep enough for them to do that. So that's just how I feel about it.
It seems like Shamari's asking the question to Lamar Jackson.
You think football is still fun?
Shamari's saying that football was not fun for Lamar Jackson last year, and that he needs to maintain a positive attitude. And I see that. I'm not gonna pretend like I haven't been the body language police for other players that play for my teams, Julius Randle, or others in other sports as well. So Javi Baez. So yeah, I that's not nothing. I agree with that, and you do wonder again now that you have this contract thing, and who knows, maybe by the time we're recording this thing gets hammered out. But with this contract thing hanging over, does that play a factor into this as well? It's a fair question for sure. I think with the rest of this division, Pittsburgh, I know Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, which is still insane for as long as he's been coaching. Trubisky's just not a player to me, so I'm out on him. So it's hard for me to really see much for the Steelers, even though I love their defense. And Najee Harris better have a good season because he was my first pick in fantasy football this year. So, and I tell you what, Shamari, this George Pickens guy, this guy's a monster.
George Pickens is a stud, yo.
Yeah, this guy, this already looking like the steal of the NFL draft, getting him in the second round. So the cupboard's not bare. It just might not be it might not turn into much this season. Like maybe they win 9 games. Maybe they sneak into a playoff spot, whether it's Trubisky or whether it's Pickett at some point. But I don't think we really will know what this team is moving forward really until next season. Next season, I think you'll say, okay, the defense is good, but maybe getting a little older. And now these young offensive talented players they got, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Freiermuth, Pickens, Najee, with some quarterback, let's say it's Pickett now, year 2, he looks like a guy. Now you're saying, okay, Steelers this year, you should go deep. This season, I think that probably you're saying it's more of a let's see what we got kind of year. And Browns, I don't think there's really much to talk about until Deshaun comes back, and he's coming back too late, I think, to really make a difference. We talked about that a bunch on the podcast a couple weeks ago when the suspension came out. Let's get over to the AFC East real quick. So we spoke about the Bills at the top of the show. They obviously come in as big favorites in the East. There's some optimism that these other teams, though, are at least ready to turn the corner, if not, challenge the Bills for the AFC East crown. So there's real hope that with Tyreek Hill and the revamped offense of the Mike McDaniel, that the Dolphins could make it back to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. There's hope that the Jets, with them adding more weapons around Zach Wilson, that they maybe could make another jump. They shore up their historically bad defense last year. I mean, their defense was just abominable. They gave up 40 points, I think, 3 times last year. They shore up that defense through free agency, through the draft. So there's hope that maybe the Jets can turn the corner, maybe get their first winning season since 2015 when they went 10-6. Oh my God, that's crazy. That was that long ago. And the playoff drought's even longer. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2010. And then, look, the Patriots, I think there is some anxiety about what the hell's going on with the offensive staff. You got, the clown Joe Judge. You got the other clown, Matt Patricia, there. But you still got Mac Jones, who had a very impressive rookie season. And you hope that he can show that he is that franchise guy, that true heir apparent to Tom Brady in his second year. So, Sham, which one of these teams, let's take the Bills out of this for a second, because we talked about the Bills for a lot. I'm not necessarily asking you which one of these teams will have the best season, because I think the expectations for all these teams are different. So I don't want to say, the Jets will have the best season, but that might not mean they have a better record than the Dolphins, let's say, or even the Patriots. But which of these teams do you think should be most excited about heading in the right direction this season after the season's over? Like, which team can look back at this season and say, okay, given what we wanted to do, given what the expectations were, we should be really good about what happened this year?
I mean, of course, we're from New York. We follow the Jets. You want to say the Jets. I would like to say the Jets. I think it could be the Jets. It's all hinges on Zach Wilson for me, on his mindset. I mean, I'm going to say Miami. Their roster is just got quite the boost this offseason. And they got a new coach. What's his name? Mike McDaniel? Is that his name?
Mike McDaniel from San Francisco. He was
from San Francisco. They got a bunch of new talent. Of course, Tyreek Hill. They got Raheem Mostert. They already have Jalen Waddle. They already have Gesicki. So they got guys, right? They got Cedric Wilson as well.
Taron Armstrong in the offensive line was a really big pickup too, because they had such trouble protecting, and now you get one of the best tackles in the NFL. That was a big move.
Yeah. So so we'll see, right? We'll see how good Miami is, but they have a lot to be excited about in South Beach. So I'm gonna be looking at them as a team to watch.
Yeah, it pains me to say, because I'm a Jet fan here, and I hate everybody in the AFC East. My hatred for these teams runs so deep. It's hard to say nice things about them, but I'm not. This is a podcast not about me being a Jet fan and hating the rest of these teams. About being a sports fan and a sports analyst, or I don't even like saying that word, but just a sports enthusiast trying to be objective here. And I would agree. I think it's the Dolphins. I'm not necessarily. I don't know if. I feel like all these teams won't nearly have the amount of success that they hope that they have. But I don't know if they all will have bad well, I think the Patriots will have a bad season. I think the Pats are cooked. I'll get to them in a second. I don't know if the Jets and Dolphins will have the big leaps that people are expecting. So if you're a Jet fan, you're thinking, oh, we win 8 games, 9 games, and fight for a playoff spot. I don't think that's going to happen. If you're the Dolphins, it's, oh, we win 10 or 11, and we're solidly in the playoffs. I don't think that's the case. I think that both of those teams, they make strides, they make improvements, but I don't know if they necessarily hit the high ceiling for what those teams expect. But I do think the Dolphins, you look at this season, and to me, it's almost like I can't lose in a weird way, because the roster is, I was going to say great, maybe that's too far. It's at the very least very good. Tyreek Hill and Waddle, even with Cedric Wilson in there as well, that's a really good receiving core. I just mentioned Taron Armstead and Connor Williams, those additions on the line. Really good additions to the offensive line, which desperately needed it. The Tony Michel thing didn't work. I know he got cut. Chase Edmonds, though, you talked about Raheem Mostert. That guy never stays healthy, but whenever he's healthy, he's great. Chase Edmonds is a good player, though. And the defense has been great for years. They got plenty of good players on that side of the ball. Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, maybe the best corner tandem in the NFL. So they got Jims and Joes. It's all about what the quarterback's going to do. And I really can't tell you what I feel about Tua. I don't really know. We have not seen enough of Tua to say whether for sure, oh yeah, he's definitely going to make this great leap that people are expecting. And I don't think we've seen him under the right circumstances to make that statement too, because it's not necessarily always just been his underwhelming play, which, yes, at times he's been very underwhelming. He's also had just games where he's had no protection, just an offensive line that just made the Jets offensive line look good at times. Just such poor play up front that the quarterback didn't have a chance. I mean, he got killed pretty much early in the season, and it took him out for most of the year because they couldn't protect him in week 1 and week 2. So with Tua, he's really kind of just like a blank slate. Like, I don't really know what to make of him. But my thing is, all right, if he's not that great, you go into the market of trying to find a QB. And, there was a time where QBs were, like, impossible to trade for or find in free agency or things like that. That's kind of not the case anymore. Like, we've seen now big-name quarterbacks pretty much every year now get traded. There was a stretch, and I talked about it a bunch on our podcast and on other content I've done, where there was a stretch where there was, like, 6-7 years where no good quarterback became available via trade or free agency in a row, because everybody was so scared that the guy that they lost the guy they got, they would never get another good guy. So nobody was giving up on the guys that they had. They wouldn't give up until the guy was actually cooked. Like when Watson knew RG3 was absolutely cooked, like then they got rid of him. But like you didn't have guys who could still play. Guys like Cousins, guys like Stafford, guys like Russell Wilson. You didn't have guys like that. Tom Brady, obviously. You didn't have guys like that changing teams. So Miami, I think they'll have a good quarterback next year. Either it'll be Tua Tagovailoa, he would have proven he's a good quarterback, or it'll be some other guy that comes available through trade, through free agency, and then they go out with him. But I think that you'll see a Dolphins team that's way more explosive, way more talented, and I think you'll say, okay, we're pointing in the right direction. We just now, hopefully, they'll have an answer of what the quarterback situation is, whether it's we keep Tua or we trade for someone else. I don't think they're going to be positioned to draft a guy because I think that they're going to be too good to get like a number 2 or number 3 pick. Now, this is a draft I think that will have a lot of options, so maybe they don't have to get that high, but I don't know. If you watch week 1 of the college football season, you might need to get in the top 3 to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. Let me just say that. So I think the Dolphins are in for a season of optimism, but I don't know about Tua. I think with the Jets, I want to believe in Zach, but I just got to see it before I really buy in.
Right.
I just have to see it. I can't sit here and just say, yo, he's going to be great. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, anybody saying that, I just think that they're, like, lying to themselves. Like, or they're just hoping against hope. I'm not saying that he can't be, because I'm rooting for Zach, and I think he has a lot of talent. But he was just bad last year. And I don't think there's really, and some people have tried to sugarcoat, well, when he came back from knee injury last year, he played a little better. And it's like, again, and we talked about it before, I thought he had one legitimately great game against Tampa. I thought those other games they played that they won, and some of them they lost, I thought he was, like, okay to, like, still bad. Like, I think maybe say he was okay against Jacksonville. He was okay against, maybe you say he was okay against Houston. I don't think he was good in that game. They won. I think he was terrible against Buffalo. I think he was terrible against some of those other teams down the stretch. So, like, as long as he is, like, just, like, still, like, a project, like, the Jets aren't going anywhere. So it's kind of hard. Now, I think you'll see much better defensive play. I think you'll see Elijah Moore break out as just a stud. Yeah. And I think, I'm a little worried about Breece Hall because I'm not sure about this offensive line, but I think maybe by the end of the season, you'll see, okay, Breece Hall is legit RB1. And I think Michael Carter is a really good running back, too. I think they'll be a great tandem. But I think it's hard to really just say, oh, they'll have great expectations and a great season. When I don't have any faith that Wilson's going to be that guy. And I just got to be honest with myself. I hope I'm wrong. But I've seen nothing. There's not one thing I've seen from him that makes me think that this guy is the Jets quarterback of the future. That's terrifying because I'm like, here are we going to be in the Anthony Richardson sweepstakes at the end of this season again? Like, I don't want to go through this again.
Right. Hey, EJ, what do you think of Saleh as well as in his growth? And not to turn this into a Jets.
Yeah, go ahead. Podcast. Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, to me, I mean, Saleh, I thought Saleh started the year very rough. I thought that his demeanor on the sidelines was stoic to the point of almost comatose. Right. Like, it was very odd, especially for a guy who is known as being this fiery guy. And when your team is just they're just getting their ass kicked every week, and like you're just not even like saying anything or doing anything on the sidelines. I don't know how you expect like your team to show any fire or show any energy or show any sense of urgency. So I thought he got better as the year went on. I thought that the offensive play got a lot better, and I don't know how much he had to do with LaFleur's improvement, but LaFleur improved greatly throughout the season. And I thought Salah by the end of the year, I felt a lot better. I felt like, okay, this is a guy that I definitely can see being a good NFL head coach. I don't think he was one last year, but it doesn't mean I don't think he can be one still. Like I have, let me make this very clear. I have way more faith that Robert Saleh could absolutely be the Jets' long-term head coach, and I do that Zach Wilson could be Jets' long-term quarterback.
I agree with that as well. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Wilson, he just has to show. He has to show something, and look, I'm not grading him necessarily on this scale, but whenever, like you said, people are making those excuses, and I'm just like, well, I mean, look at what Burrow did. Even in his first year when they weren't winning, they were losing a lot that year, and he had a lot of trouble, and he got hurt. You could still see, like, yo, there's something special with this right now.
Absolutely.
And it was indisputable. With Zach, you saw a complete potential train wreck that could never go anywhere potentially, or it could be great. I don't know, but so it's just you just haven't seen it yet, except for like literally like a couple plays. Not even I wouldn't even. People give whole games. I mean, I give him like a few plays of where you're like, oh, but
to me, like the Tennessee game in week whatever 3, I think it was 3 or 4.
Yeah, the Tennessee game
and the Tampa game, you could say, okay, that looks like a guy that could be a star quarterback. There's no other game in the season that he looked like that. There's none. Like if you're telling me there's more than 2 games, you're lying.
Yeah, it's just it's. So I don't know. I gotta see it. That preseason, of course, before he got injured, didn't look good. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and quickly on the Pats, I think the Pats are cooked, and it has nothing to do with Mac Jones. I just think that, like I've said before, I said this on CBS Sports Radio a couple of weeks ago. I think the Pats have run out of gimmicks. I think that they've run out of gimmicks. I think they've run out of smoke and mirrors. And that's why you're seeing this, we don't have an offensive coordinator thing that they're doing. And, don't worry, the guy that was a special teams coach and the guy that was a defensive coordinator, they definitely know what they're doing in developing a young, promising quarterback. Like, they're just doing stuff that I think that they're throwing stuff against the wall and seeing if it sticks at this point. And I think Bill Belichick's doing a disservice to Mac Jones. Because I was someone who was not high on Mac Jones coming out of the draft. I thought the kid played pretty damn great, considering like what I expected from him. And I think even beyond that, I just think as a rookie quarterback, he had a really great season. And you lose a very, very good offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. And like, it just replaced him with bozos. Like, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing over there. And, they lose, they lose, some important offensive linemen. Shaq Moses goes to what's the name, to New England. And, like, they don't replace him with anybody. They signed Cole Strange, a guy who's, like, a top 500 prospect. And they drafted him in basically the first round of the NBA draft. Shaq Mason, sorry, was the name I had, who went to Tampa Bay. They replaced him with Cole Strange. I don't know if this guy can play. J.C. Jackson leaves. They replace him with Malcolm Butler, who hasn't, Malcolm Butler, like, what year is it? Like, I don't know. I see a team that's spinning its wheels that doesn't know what the hell it's doing. And I think the Pats are in for a rough year. I think this is going to be the first losing season Belichick's had in a long time. I don't know when the last time he had a losing season, but this is going to be the next one. I think Mac will play fine. I think that there will be a good team, but there's just too much unorthodox, too much weird stuff going on. Hopefully this will be, I'm hoping in my case is not, they don't do this, but hopefully this will be a reset for Bill. He'll say, okay, we need to reset things. Let's get a real OC in here. Let's get some players in here, and let's figure this thing out. Because, he won. Credit where credit is due. He did a great job last year using all that smoke and mirrors to win. He ain't going to be able to do that again. The schedule gets harder this year. I think that you're going to see a much different Patriots team this season.
Yeah, the Pats, I think it's going to be a little harder for them as well, for Mac in particular. I mean, like he was saying, I'm not really sure what they're going for. I mean, they lost McDaniels. We don't know what's going on with their offense this year. I don't think they had a stellar draft.
I don't think so at all.
We'll see how these guys end up. But it's not looking too good for the Pats in terms, but Mac looked good last year. He looked good. He looked reliable. And he looked like he was in the zone a lot of the time last year, which I think, and he made the Pro Bowl. I mean, he had a very good year. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how they do. But I don't know. I mean, we just gotta wait and see.
Yeah, and like one of the picks that did look good early was Tyquan Thornton from Baylor, the guy who ran that insane 40.
Yeah.
But then he got hurt. He broke his collarbone, and he's gonna be gone now. So that's a weapon that Mac was gonna have that he doesn't have anymore. So AFC East it's a very interesting division. I wouldn't say it's a good division or that it's even gonna be very suspenseful. But I just feel like every team in it kind of has a lot to prove this year, even though they all have totally different expectations, which I think is very interesting. Let's quickly wrap up the AFC with maybe, I think, sorry to people who love these teams in this division, but I think it is the most unheralded division this year, maybe in all of football, the AFC South. It's probably the only division in the league without a team with what most people would perceive as legit Super Bowl aspirations. The Titans did finished last season as the first overall seed in the AFC, and they do have Derrick Henry coming back, but they just lost Harold Landry, their top-notch pass rusher, who they re-signed this year. They lost him for the season, so he's done, and they lost AJ Brown as well. So we'll see what the Titans are this year. The Colts dumped Carson Wentz for Matt Ryan, so now there's a ton of pressure on head coach Frank Reich to get that situation going in the right direction. The Jacksonville Jaguars are hoping Doug Peterson and some of the new weapons that they got can undo the damage one season of playing under Urban Meyer did to Trevor Lawrence. And then the Texans are, well, the Texans. So we'll see how their season goes. Sham, I want to start this conversation quickly on the Titans. Do you feel like their Super Bowl window is closed? Because for me, I look at a team, and I know there are some people who never believed in them, and I understand why, right? You don't believe in Tannehill. You don't believe in how they play, whatever. But they had a really talented team. They've had a really talented team, and it felt like they were a legit Super Bowl contender. It just feels like this year, coming into this season, even if you want to finagle that they may still have the most talent in the division, I just don't think anybody can look at them realistically and say this team can go to the Super Bowl. Tannehill looked just shook in that playoff game. And I just thought even throughout the season, he played fine, but, nothing spectacular. I just thought he maybe took a little bit of a step back than the way he played the year before. No real big acquisitions to speak about this offseason. The guys that they resigned, again, just now is out for the year, and Landry. So, I don't really know. I don't know. I just don't feel really great about this team. I know they brought Robert Woods in. Hopefully he can be healthy. He's a replacement for AJ Brown. You're replacing a young, athletic guy who's not hurt, with a guy who's older and who was hurt. So I don't feel great about that switch. They did replace, Julio Jones with, Treylon Burks. That's a young, athletic guy for an old, broken down guy. So maybe the trade actually ends up being not as bad when you think about that. But I don't know. I just can't really look at the Titans as a serious team, which we have for the last 2 years. Do you agree?
I mean, I would agree in so much as definitely not as serious as we would the last few years. Definitely not. I think just tangibly, just in terms of who they have, like their depth chart. Though one thing I will say, but of course we're talking about this year, but Malik Willis looks really good. So that's
I know. Yeah, it may not be for this year, guys, but Malik Willis,
he looks
like the real deal.
He looks really good. He looks like someone that, even if you're in Tennessee and you're looking at this year, you're like, I don't know. You maybe look at next year and say, I don't know. Who are we going to draft next year? What kind of guys are we going to sign next year? Because it looks like their quarterback position may be set.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill's looking a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, he's having that. He has a Garoppolo.
This is looking like a Jimmy Garoppolo year.
But he's not nearly as nice as Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of being willing to help Malik Willis. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, the Tennessee just isn't in as good of a position as they were last year. I do think this division is more interesting than it was last year, just in general. Jacksonville, this is Lawrence's second year, and they have an actual coach. Of course,
a guy who's just not an absolute clown.
not just in bars.
A respectable man.
I'm not even
a decent human.
Well, I'm not even gonna go down the rabbit hole of everything that happened in Jacksonville last year. So they have.
In my opinion, that sucked.
They have some kind of like structure. So we could actually see Lawrence develop. Of course, we have ETN back, and you've got Christian Kirk and all those Zay Jones and all those guys. So we'll see what happens with Jacksonville, right? I think they'll have a better year. I think they'll win some games and be taken like when you see them on the schedule, you don't just automatically think W. I feel like they'll be looked at similar to how the Colts were looked at last year. Where it's like we got to prepare for these guys, right? It isn't just a W, And
I tell you what about Jacksonville, they were a nightmare offensively. They had some really good defensive performances last year. They added Trayvon Walker and Devin Lloyd, two guys I wasn't crazy about Walker, but he looks really good in preseason. Like he looks like he's the dude, and I love Devin Lloyd coming out of the draft. So you had those two guys with a defense that wasn't completely hapless. You may have something there, And the offense, they added a ton of weapons, Christian Kirk. They added, and now to bring back Travis Etienne, who didn't play at all last year. I'm not sure about Evan Ingram. That guy, he's got all the physical tools, but he just didn't have it with the Giants for whatever reason. Maybe he figured it out in Jacksonville, but I agree. I don't think Jacksonville will be necessarily the doormat that they were, and I think that even some of the stuff we're seeing in preseason, I feel like Lawrence looks more like the guy we thought he was going to look like last year.
I agree. I agree with that.
He's getting actually competent coaching finally, so that'll help.
Yeah. And Houston surprised some people last year as well. I mean, what's his name? Davis Mills.
Yeah, Lovie Smith's now a new coach.
Lovie Smith. I mean, they got Dameon Pierce now as well, in which of course I know what he's capable of. He's very good, very solid running back, reliable. I mean, they have guys. They have guys that that it's the NFL, right? All these guys are talented. They have guys that can produce. And Davis Mills is better than I thought he would be. So
Davis Mills is a decent player, and I thought that the Texans had a pretty good draft.
I think
Stingley is just he's just everything you ask for in terms of the physical attributes for a corner. And I like Jalen Petrie from Baylor. I thought that was a good second round pick.
Right.
I don't know if Mechie sees the field, but I thought that Christian Harris was a good pick in the third round. You mentioned Pierce, they did who knows? We never know, one ever knows for sure. But I watching their draft. I remember thinking they're getting some decent players here. So we'll see. It's funny. The team we didn't talk about was the team I think should be favored. I think is the Colts. Matt Ryan. I thought Matt Ryan had kind of a underrated decent season last year on a Falcons team that was not as bad as people I think remember. Like they won 7 games. They weren't like some crazy train wreck. Like they were a decent, respectable team. He had some really good games, and I'm not necessarily sure like his numbers were a lot better than Carson Wentz's numbers did. But I know he won't be so self-destructive.
Right, there you go.
That was the thing. Because people will look at Wentz's numbers, and, Wentz's numbers were good. And he had some great games. People will cap on how good Wentz looked at times last year. He legit looked great at times.
Right.
But it was the self-destructive
just
plays.
A total implosion.
Just the complete implosions that were happening in times where you just can't have them happen, that they had to move on. They're like, we can't have a quarterback that we're just waiting for him to screw this up. You're just waiting. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And they couldn't have that. And Matt Ryan, again, not a superstar at this point in his career. Again, I can't even tell you if his numbers will be better than Carson Wentz, but I know he'll play much more even football. I think that's really all this team needs. Because this is, again, I don't think any of these teams have Super Bowl aspirations, but this is a talented roster. They had the best running back in the NFL in Jonathan Taylor. And, Michael Pittman Jr., really good wide receiver. Paris Campbell, solid. Offensive line is really good. The defense, it kind of fell apart last year at the end of the year, but they still got a lot of good players. They added Stephon Gilmore. We'll see if he's got anything left in the tank. But, DeForest Buckner is still one of the best interior linemen in the league. Yannick Ngakoue now is on this defense, so they got players. Darius Leonard, we'll see how he is this year. I know he's been dealing with injuries, but the Colts got talent. I think they're the most talented team in the division. They got to have a better year this year, because if not, Frank Reich will be gone, and that's unfortunate because I like Frank Reich. I think that he's a really good coach. I don't think he could have survived what Wentz was doing to him last year. I don't think any coach could have, so I don't really blame him that much for that. But now he's in a make or break year, and he's got a 37-year-old QB, so that comes with a lot of risk. So we'll see how things go in that division. Let's move over to the NFC though. Let's start with the division that you care most about, Sham. That's the NFC North. So the Green Bay Packers had an eventful offseason, but not necessarily in the best ways. They do remain the favorites in the NFC North for most, but they did lose Devontae Adams and had to deal with a frustrated Aaron Rodgers who could not understand why his receivers were dropping the ball and didn't know the plays as they were trying to get ready for this upcoming NFL season. Meanwhile, some are wondering if Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings and that talented roster, could they be a sleeper team and a surprise winner in this division? The Lions are featured in Hard Knocks, so we got to see an inside look at them. They look to be building a foundation for a resilient group, a feisty group, even though they may seem like they're years away. And the Bears, they have a new regime, new head coach, new front office. They've gotten rid of some really key pieces. No Robinson, no Mack. Those are two linchpin guys for that franchise. They're now gone. And now it's all on Justin Fields. And we'll see how his sophomore campaign goes after a rookie season that saw some decent flashes, but some uneven play, to say the least. So, I mean, simple question, Shamari. From a Packers fan standpoint, do you feel like you have anything to worry about in this division? I want to know how Packer Nation feels coming into this year, seeing these other teams, seeing what you guys gone through. And I think you guys do have legit anxiety about some of the things going on with the receivers and wondering if they all get on the same page. But do you feel like there's going to be a point where any of these teams in the division strike any real fear or become a real challenge?
Not really. I mean, the Vikings are, and it's kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say the same thing every year, but the Vikings are kind of the only team where you're okay, we gotta keep an eye on them, right? But I mean, the Lions and Bears, I mean, they're just not there yet.
The Bears are who we thought they were.
Yeah, basically. The Bears don't want to help Justin Fields. We've had conversations about this. I don't know what, kind of conspiracies going on in Chicago, but they seem to be dead set on making sure he has no help. So I'm not too concerned about Chicago. And Detroit, I mean, they're trying to do something, but they just don't have the pieces yet. So I'm not too concerned. We're still more talented in terms of Green Bay is more talented than both of those teams. And Minnesota, I mean, they have very good skilled players. But I feel like they're going to go as far as quite frankly, Kirk will take them, and I don't think he's going to take them that far. Mm-hmm. So and ultimately, I mean, I think we have the best, what some people would say is the best player in the most important position in the NFL, which is Aaron Rodgers. And he is still who he is, right? He's still crazy talented. And, the only issue is who's he throwing to. Now, that's kind of been the biggest problem. I mean, we drafted some guys, right? I mean, we got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, who looks fantastic.
Yeah.
To be honest. But we're looking at everybody else. We're kind of like, okay, we got Lazard. We got Sammy Watkins, and it's like, okay, you
got the corpse of Randall Cobb still there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we got Randall Cobb and Lamar Rodgers, and it's like, all right. It's kind of hobbled together. So it's like, we got to see what we can do with this. Devontae's not walking through that door no more. So, of course we lost, the homie to the Vikings. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. The, edge rusher. Zadarius Smith. There we go. Of course we lost Zadarius Smith, to the Vikings. So, yeah, it's not. We're not in an ideal position, but um, yeah, this is I think we're still in a pretty good spot. We're not like completely lost. It's not all is lost, but it's definitely not as secure as it was before.
Yeah, I tend to. I'm gonna say that. Do they have something to worry about? Yes, I think they do have to worry about the Vikings. I don't think the Lions are a factor. They're a fun team. I think that they're kind of. I think the Lions are kind of low key like America's team this year. Like I know technically the Cowboys are America's team. But I think nobody feels threatened by the Lions. I think everyone just, besides maybe the people in the NFC North, of course. I know you aren't. You're not rooting for the Lions, and neither the Vikings or Bears fans. But I think everyone else is like, oh, hopefully those plucky Lions, like start to turn it around. Like everybody likes their coach, and they seem to have like a group of guys that are very likable, that are hardworking. So they kind of become America's team, and I like that. I think that's cool. I just don't think that they have really a good football team right now. I think that they're still a team that's looking towards the bottom of the NFC when it comes to the standings. The Bears are just not worth really mentioning. Their defense was actually pretty good last year, but they just lost Khalil Mack. Roquan Smith wants nothing to do with them. He's still in the roster, so I guess he'll have to just suck it up. But we'll have to see, I guess, kind of what happened with their offense. They didn't really do anything to improve their offense, which was, as Shamari mentioned, kind of egregious. They did bring in Byron Pringle. That's not enough to make me really excited. Darnell Mooney had a really good year last year, so we'll see if him and Justin Fields can continue the connection that they had. But Bears, not really a factor. The Vikings are a real team. I think there was so much bad juju around the Zimmer era by the end of it that it just prevented them from playing anywhere near their potential. Like when you look at their team, I don't know how you look at the team and say, okay, this. I don't know, what was their record last year? Like, I don't have it in front of me, but whatever their record was, like I don't know. You look at their record and say, oh, they were 8-win team last year. Like I don't see 8-win roster. Like I don't know a team with Thielen was banged up a little bit, but Jefferson, Thielen, Osborne are your wide receivers. Dalvin Cook is your running back. I'm not here to bash Kirk Cousins. He's a good quarterback. He's playing at QB. They got the defensive player that they got, and the best you could do was 8 wins. And like you were just really like, not even really in the playoff picture. Like that was a terrible season for the Vikings. I almost get the feeling that just anybody else but Zimmer and that coaching staff being there means that they're now a problem. I gotta see what's gonna happen with Andrew Booth. I know he got hurt in training camp, but early on the word was that Andrew Booth, the second round pick, looked like a real player at corner. Lewis Seen from Georgia, a little more raw, but he's playing safety, and now that defense, which was up and down last year, they add some young players to it, and if they could just stay healthy, I think that they're a challenge. I think the Packers will have some growing pains with these receivers. Their defense will help them kind of get past it. The Packers have an excellent defense, but I think there's still going to be some growing pains on offense, and that'll allow the Vikings to hang in there. I think this is going to be a very good division race.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting. It'll be. Look, I think there's going to be a lot of weeks, this season where I'm going to be kind of scratching my head, like, what's going on? What are we doing? I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to be looking at, why am I forgetting our coach's name?
LaFleur.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at LaFleur, saying, what are we doing, LaFleur? We got to do something about this. We'll see how things go. Our special teams, we got rid of our special teams coach, thank goodness. We got rid of that guy. So hopefully the special teams
Bisaccia is now like the most highest paid special teams coach in history of football.
Yeah, there you go, right? I mean, Bisaccia, our special teams, if nothing else, our special teams should be solid, or we shouldn't be losing any games for several weeks on end because of that that alone. So at least I know that's not going to be driving me crazy. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it will have to grow, like you said, but I'm not too concerned still. I think we'll still win the division pretty handily.
Let's get to the NFC North. A lot of drama encapsulated the Buccaneers offseason, you had Tom Brady retiring. Then you had Bruce Arians retiring. Then you had Tom Brady unretiring. Then you had a lot of the losses on the offensive line through free agency, injury, and retirement. Then Tom Brady disappeared for 11 days. Then he came back with a weird face. And it's just a lot of questions about what the hell's going on with him. But they still appear to be the most talented group, despite all those issues that the Buccaneers appear to be dealing with. You do have the Saints. They lost Sean Payton. You have Dennis Allen. He ran the defense that had been elite for the last few years. He's not the head coach. His last head coaching go-around was a just abomination with the Raiders. But he's getting a second crack now with the Saints. You also got Michael Thomas back as well. He was one of the elite receivers in the league before he went out with an injury. You got the Panthers launching the Baker Mayfield experiment with Matt Rule in his possible last chance as a head coach. And you got the Falcons in a little bit of a rebuilding year. But you do have Kyle Pitts. You do have now Ricky Drake London. You look to see if that maybe is your passing duo of the future. Certainly two physical specimens now running routes for the Atlanta Falcons there. On the Bucs, Sham, do you feel like all the adversity will finally catch up to the Bucs and Brady this year?
Honestly, I mean, I not really. I feel like there's still going to be the Bucs. Just one important catalyst though is Gronk still there? I forget.
No, Gronk's
gone.
He's
retired?
technically he's retired. Though every other week, Drew Rosenhaus keeps saying, "Oh, if you convince him enough, he will come back." And then Gronk has to come out and say, "I'm not coming back." So I don't know what the hell that's about. Mm-hmm. But no, he's not. He's gone right now.
Yeah, so Gronk is gone. That'll be a wrinkle for Brady. Well, we'll see how that goes. But no, I think he's still pretty set. I'm not too concerned about the Bucs in terms of whether they'll still be the team for this division. I don't. I've said before. To you, of course, I'm not the biggest Baker guy. I don't believe in Baker like that in terms of like, oh, Baker's going to lead this team to, really anything. I mean, I don't know. I just don't. I haven't seen it in Cleveland. I don't see it in Carolina. I mean, we'll see how it works with Matt Rule, but I don't think I don't think much is going to happen there. The Saints are interesting. I mean, I'm interested to see what New Orleans does. That I'll say. I mean, they have Olave. Of course, we saw what happened with Jameis last year. Very sad to see him get hurt the way he did. But I mean, he's. They were
5-2 with him healthy.
They were 5-2. He was playing, right? He was playing. He didn't look bad when he was playing. It's not like he was, a detriment or anything. He was leading that team. So I'm curious to see what New Orleans does. I think they can win a decent amount of games. I think they can still be a good team. And they still have very good players, both on offense and defense. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. But for me, the team is still the Bucs. And the Falcons just still have a lot of growing to do. And I don't know what their quarterback situation is. So I feel like they're just going to be vying for the draft next year. I think the Bucs are the team to look at for this division.
Yeah, I think it's the Bucs. I don't think they're as good though as these other recent Brady teams. I think that you still got Mike Evans and Godwin. We'll see if he's healthy coming back from injury. But we've seen that, and I think Brady and Fournette and defense lost some guys, but they got enough of a decent core that I think that they'll be mostly fine. I think this is a good Bucs team. I don't think it's a great Bucs team. I don't think this is a team that I look at and say this is a team that definitely is going back to the Super Bowl or contending for a Super Bowl. I think they're a good team that probably should still win the division, but probably a step below the Rams and the Packers. And maybe even the Eagles. I don't know. The offensive line stuff scares me a little bit because when Brady has struggled in the past, it's been when people can get at him. And this is a division that has pass rushers. This is a division that can get after the quarterback. So I think they're going to have some trouble with that. I think that's going to be something to follow for this year. I think the Panthers will be okay. I think Baker will play fine. I just don't know if it'll be enough to make the playoffs. They're in a division that I think probably has 2 playoff teams. We'll talk about our playoff picks soon here. So now it's like, okay, do I think they're going to get 3? I find that unlikely. I think Baker will play fine, but I just feel like it's a roster that's out on Matt Rule. Like, I'll be honest, I think going to Baker was the right move for them. I think that there's any chance to somehow make this Matt Rule thing work. Like, they needed a new, like, voice and face of the locker room. Like, the players, I think, were just checked out of Matt Rule by the end of the last season. I don't think he should have been retained, to be honest. So, like, they were dead on arrival with Sam Darnold coming back this year. There was no chance they were going to be competitive. This, with Baker and him and a chip on his shoulder and him wanting something to prove, I think they're worth paying attention to. I just don't know, Christian McCaffrey has had so many injuries. Like, if he's healthy for 16 games, 17 games, like, okay, I think that they're a team to be reckoned with maybe, but he hasn't done that in years. So I just can't really put much faith in the Panthers. I think they'll be better than they were last year. Falcons, they're in the Anthony Richardson sweepstakes. They're in the Bryce Young sweepstakes. Nice team, they got some nice little players here and there, but they're just not gonna be able to compete with some of these other teams. Let's talk about this the NFC East real quick. This is let's get to the West real quick. So this is a super uber competitive division. We talked about the Rams at the top. They're the defending champs. They had to beat a division opponent in the NFC Championship game in the San Francisco 49ers to get there. The Niners are switching QBs. Now you got Trey Lance, who's starting, though Jimmy Garoppolo is still lingering, which is a little weird. The Cardinals endured a ton of Kyler Murray drama, but he is still back, so they're running it back with him. It's a make-or-break year for Cliff Kingsbury. And then the Seahawks, you want to talk about being in the Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young sweepstakes. I mean, they're starting Geno Smith at quarterback, so that's pretty much all you can say about them. The Rams won it all last year. You seem to be confident that they should be one of the favorites this year. Do you think they should also be the favorites to win this division?
So
long side here. What's going on? What's going through your head?
All right, and this is the NFC East, right?
No, this is the West. The West.
Oh, the NFC West. Okay. Yeah. So this is gonna be. I think it's gonna be closer than a lot of people think. So I like Arizona, right? I like Arizona a lot.
You do,
Kyler,
even with the suspension to Hopkins and the Kyler drama.
I do. I think Arizona is still a very good team, and they have. I feel like for me that this is a similar situation to Baltimore, Los Angeles, the Chargers, just in terms of, can Kyler get out of his head, right? Can he lead this team? Can he be the guy to lead this team to that next level, bring them to that next level of nothing is going to stop us, right? Because Kyler's another one. Anything happens and it's just like, oh my God, oh, here we go again. Just kind of rolling his eyes, head towel on the bench, just, yelling at guys on the sidelines. I see that all the time with Kyler, and it's like, dude, So I don't know. So I have to see that from him. I feel like the Rams got to be the kind of be the front runner, but I'm also looking at San Francisco. I don't know what Trey Lance is going to do, but they have so much talent on that roster. It's just like, they could be as good as they want, and Shanahan's a fantastic coach. But how good is Trey Lance? That's kind of where we're going.
It's a question we all got. Yeah.
With Garoppolo, and Seattle's kind of in no man's land right now. With them losing Russ and everything. So yeah, I mean, I feel like LA have to be kind of the front runners for this.
Yeah, I think that they're. I know I was a little down on LA to start the show, but I feel like this division. I don't think it's as good as it was last year. I think that they're clear front runners this year. The Lance thing, it's not the same as the Zach Wilson thing. It's not that dire, but it is definitely I just got to see that he's good before I'm gonna say he's good. For me, I think that physical tools there, looks extremely talented, but what I've seen from him was ordinary, or at best, what I've seen from him in this preseason and in training camp, what I've heard about him, hasn't really given me much excitement. Now things could change and he can get better for sure, but until I see that he's the guy, I'm not going to say the 49ers are unseating the Rams for this division. And I think the Cardinals are a dangerous team. I think not in the way you're thinking. I think that we'll see in a couple minutes. I do have them still in the playoffs. But usually in these kind of make or break years with a coach that's on the hot seat, it usually goes one of two ways. And really mostly one way. Either the team really rises up and takes some massive leap and they go really far, like Tom Coughlin taking the Giants to the Super Bowl. Or like the just bottom falls out. Like again, they just stop listening to the guy. They don't think that the guy really is going to be there much longer, and they lose 10 games. I think that the Cardinals are a risk of that. All this drama in the offseason, I don't think it was good for them. They also have a brutal schedule. They start the year Kansas City at home, at Vegas, home against the Rams, at Carolina, home against Philly. At Seattle, then Thursday night against New Orleans and at Minnesota. Those are not easy games. Right. They got the AFC West for their AFC slate of the calendar, and then for the kind of random games in the schedule, Tampa Bay is one of them. So they got a tough break there. Now they got New England for the other one. I think New England's not that great, so I think that they'll be fine there. But getting Tampa Bay is one of your random extra games this year in your schedule. Well, actually, I lied about that. They played Nfc North as their schedule, so that's not random. So I'm not actually. I got to see who their random game is besides New England. But I don't know. It's a pretty tough schedule. I think that it doesn't start good, and what we've seen from Arizona is that they usually start seasons strong and then they fade. Like they don't have wins to just rack up to start the year and then kind of survive the end of the year collapse. Like. If they coming out with gangbusters to start. If they're not ready to play, they're looking at 3-4, 3-4, 3-5, 2-4, and this lights out in terms of trying to win this division. So Cardinals scare me. I'm not wasting time with the Seahawks. They stink, but I think the Rams are in a good position. I think that they'll still win this division. I think that in many ways will help them, have solid positioning. But I'm still a little concerned about the health stuff. I think that is a real thing. Let's quickly wrap up, Shamari, with the NFC East. I feel like with these teams, the Cowboys suffering some major losses on the O-line just recently, and the departure of Amari Cooper. Then you got the Eagles. They added A.J. Brown. They just added C.J. Gardner-Johnson this week. They already had a very busy offseason to start, and they're still adding guys. And then there's a question of whether Jalen Hurts can truly be the guy taken to the promised land. The Commanders were a mess for all things not having to do with football, but their terrible owner in Daniel Snyder. But on the football field, they're bringing back a familiar face of the division in Carson Wentz, who we talked about earlier. And then you got the New York Giants. They hope that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane can start to build a foundation for a team that can finally start playing some competitive football. Let's really center the conversation around Dallas and Philly before we get to our picks and get out of here, Sham. A lot of people see Dallas and Philly kind of going opposite directions, it feels like. It feels like Dallas is a team that's on the decline. It feels like Philly is kind of ascending. Do you see it that way? And if so, do you think that's kind of how the division goes this year?
I do, and yes. So I do see it that way, though. Micah Parsons is a superstar.
Yeah, every time I want to bury the Cowboys, I keep thinking about Parsons.
He's a superstar. He's a very, very special player. He could be as good as he wants to be. If he wants to be one of those greatest ever types, he can. He has a talent. So that's something that you just can't discount. He's just one of those players where it's just like he could just totally wreck a game. He could change the game. So we have to see how he progresses, honestly. But yes, honestly, the Eagles are extremely dangerous. Of course, I've been following the team very closely. I'm in the Philadelphia area, and I mean, just in the little that I've seen, the little preseason I've seen, this team looks incredible. It looks about as good as Philly fans would want them to look. They look about as good as Philly fans would want the Eagles to look. And in terms of how good is that, it's deep in the playoffs good. They look that good. Jalen Hurts looks that zeroed in. He's got, and I've been saying this about Jalen Hurts for a while, but he's got whatever he's got. He is he's so focused, and he is very knowledgeable. Always of course saying the right things. Not in like such a media trained kind of way, but just in terms of like he's a good leader.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the players, of course, respect him, and that all he's focused on is winning, and making sure that he does what he needs to do to make sure that his team is able to win. And the coaching staff, the organization is finally giving him. They're like, no, we're serious about winning right now.
Yeah.
And you get tired of these teams that just punt, like the Jets, and just punt, and it's just okay, next draft, okay, but is afraid to make big moves, afraid to do things. And no, they just went out. They got defensive monsters and Kobe Dean and Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
And they're just like, okay, no, we're gonna win right now. We're gonna get Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
We're gonna get Bradbury. We're gonna get all these pieces.
Yeah.
And we're gonna build a team.
Gardner Johnson now is on the squad. I think he's a really
Gardner
underrated
Johnson.
player.
We had Devontae Smith. We're gonna go out and get AJ Brown. And it's like, what else do you need? You don't need anything else. They don't need anything else. They're ready to win.
It's all about the quarterback. Yeah.
It's all, can Hurts put it together? And from what I've seen and heard from him, and it also just in seeing his development year to year,
Yeah.
it looks like he can. He doesn't look like a guy where it's like a Daniel Jones where it's like, oh, he's just a mess. It seems like no, he looks like he is getting there. It's just a matter of having that comfort. And in the preseason, I know it's a preseason, but he looks like he has no problems whatsoever. Almost surprisingly good. Even better than what I would have, expected. So, yeah, the Eagles are poised to do very well. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we're in agreement on this one, man. I see the Eagles as a team that's really ascending. They have a really deep, really balanced roster. Offensive line, solid. Wide receiving core now. Went from a big weakness of the team to now a major strength. Yeah. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I think Smith is one of the more underrated players in the league. And I think Quez Watkins is a 3. Pretty solid 3 man there.
Yeah, very good.
Your line, got Graham coming back from injury. You just added Jordan Davis. Fletcher Cox is still there. Hargrave, Josh Sweat. You talked about Hassan Reddick. He's going to be rushing the passer. The secondary, Darius Slay. The Eagles have had some really bad luck, like getting big time corners. Not with this guy. Like he's come in and like been better than he was in Detroit. I mean, Slay is a stud. Bradbury, I'm not as crazy. I think he's a little overrated. I'm not gonna go crazy about him, but he's your second corner. That's definitely a good second corner kind of guy. I love the Gardner Johnson move this week. You got a squad. It's all about Hurts, and I think for me, why I'm more willing to buy into Hurts is one, as you said, they look great in training camp and preseason. Like he looks like they're all hitting on all cylinders. It's year 2 in the system with their coach Sirianni. But I think also, if you think about Hurts, and I think about him in his college trajectory, like the guy just got better every year. He came in to college football, and I think he might win a championship his freshman year. But a lot of it was like, oh, but he's not really that good. He's kind of more a runner. And you saw him progressively get better. And then, of course, he got taken out of the game. And then Tua came in, they won, and he got benched. But then he won a big game for them down the stretch that next season. I think he won SC championship game for them, Alabama. Then he went to Oklahoma, and he puts on a Heisman Trophy caliber season. Yep. Like, all the detractors, all of the question marks about his game, he always seems to address them from year to year to year. You don't see Jalen Hurts stay the same guy. He always seems to get better. And he just seems to be the kind of guy that you shouldn't root against. Or not root against, but you shouldn't bet against, rather, is a better word.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm done betting against Jalen Hurts. I think that, is he Tom Brady? No. But, look, he got a lot of weapons. I think with the guys he got, he's going to be fine. I think that you'll see him have a really good year. I think you'll see the Eagles fly, baby, fly. I really do. I think that this is I think this is becoming an underrated team. I think there's so much. There are people who want to get them in that upper echelon, but then they keep saying, well, what about Jalen Hurts? I think those people are going to rue the day. I think that they're going to come in this year, and then they're going to be like, oh, wow, the Eagles have 13 wins. And they're like, well, yeah, the division stinks, and they got a lot of good players, and they got a quarterback who gets it. So, me and you all in on the Eagles, man. Cowboys, I don't think the Cowboys are making the playoffs, man. And
wow,
people keep trying to come up with excuses. Like, I feel like people keep saying, well, the division, and well, they still got Dak. Like, I don't think you could legitimately look at the Dallas Cowboys this year, a team that was good but not great, and just lost like so many big pieces, and just say, oh, well, there's definitely still a playoff team. I don't. These other teams around the NFC, the lower team, not necessarily the top teams. Top teams, I think we all agree, kind of all have some question marks. Some of these lower end teams got better, and the Cowboys got worse. Offensive line's worse. Receiving core is worse. I don't really know what the defense is going to be. I don't want to say the defense is worse as a whole, but as a whole offensive group, they just look very mediocre. I don't see a plus offensive line. I don't see a plus receiving core. And Zeke and Pollard, like, I mean, those guys have been around the block for a minute. Like, I don't look at them now and say, oh, they're a plus running back tandem. Like, I think they're decent. I think they're probably average. But the Cowboys got names. I don't know if they really got a legit great roster. So I look at their roster and I compare it to Minnesota. I compare it to some of these other teams that I see fighting for wild card spots. I don't see it. I don't see them making the playoffs, man.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, you know, it's just on paper. And a lot of it for me is also going to come down to Dak, you know, I mean,
that's
Dak,
the thing. It's not even that I don't even like Dak. I just feel like they're asking them to do way too much. Like, they really legit want him to be Superman. And it's like, yo, he's not Superman.
Contract, and like, oh, Dak, lead us to the promised land. It's like, I mean, I mean, with what, you know, like, you gotta help him out.
Yeah, you just can't just give him, okay, here's CeeDee Lamb, all right, have a good day. Like, they didn't do anything else. Like, I like when Gallup is good when he's healthy, but I can't trust Gallup to stay healthy.
You know, like, Cooper's gone, Wilson's gone. I mean, just leaving all these guys. So I don't know. I mean, Dak's a great player. I think the Cowboys are still gonna have a decent season, just because I think I have a lot of respect for Dak. I think he's a very good quarterback.
I respect him too. I mean, we're not people who hate on Dak. Me and you.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think Dak's great. I think he's a good leader. I think he has what you want in your starting quarterback. I think he's got it.
Yeah, he's a leader. The intangible stuff. Yeah, I agree with all that.
Comfortable in the starting position. Very easy guy to root for. A great guy to have in your locker room as well. Like, doesn't get discouraged by things. Like, he's a good quarterback. So I think they're still going to do well, but I mean they're just losing guys. So I mean they're not as deep as they were last year. So, you know, it's not as you're a Cowboys fan, it's not looking as good as it was before.
The number one rated total offense last year, and you lose all those guys. I just don't know how I'm supposed to look at you and say, and you are a middle of the pack defense. I don't know how I'm supposed to look at you and say, oh, well, you're still going to be a playoff team. I don't know. I'm trying to keep it honest. I'm looking at that assessment, and if the line was healthy, I could maybe see it. But all these injuries, you're trotting out 40-year-old Jason Peters now. Like, no, enough. Like, I've seen enough from this offseason from the Cowboys. I'm not picking them to make the playoffs. So that brings us right into our playoff picks. So I'll go first here. I'll go AFC North upset pick. I'm going the Ravens. I'll go to South. I'm taking the Colts. The West, maybe another minor upset. I'm taking the Chargers. And I'm taking the East. I'm taking the Bills. So that means I got 3 wild card spots. I got the Chiefs, Broncos, Bengals. I think it's going to be a gauntlet. I think it's going to be a really fun race for a lot of these division races. I don't think these teams will be very far off in terms of, like, they're wild card teams that can win the Super Bowl there. But I think those are the division winners, and those are the wild card teams that have in the AFC. Shamari, where are you going to? Let's go with you. What are your picks for the AFC?
I got the Bengals taking the North. I got the Bills taking the East. I got Tennessee taking the South. And I got Vegas taking the West. For my wild card, I got Denver. Mm-hmm. I got Miami,
Okay.
and I got. Boy, I think it's gonna be close between. I think there's gonna be a battle between Baltimore and Kansas City.
That's what I'm saying. Those are the two teams
I
I'm
think
looking
those are the
at.
two teams. It's like is Baltimore or Kansas City. I gotta take Baltimore. I'm gonna take Baltimore. I don't know
Kansas
if Kansas
City
City's gonna
not
make the
making the
playoffs this year.
playoffs. That's what
I
he
don't know
said
if
to
Kansas
start the
City's gonna make
show.
the play. These are
Shamari staying
EJ.
consistent.
EJ, all the teams that I gave, are they better than all of those teams? I don't know. I don't know. I can't say it for certain. I can't say it for certain.
A lot of your
Or
teams.
rather, I would say, are they going to have a better record than all of those teams? I don't know.
Playoffs?
I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know.
it's
I mean,
bold. It's bold. It's bold.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard.
I'm not crazy about the Chiefs. I told you about the schedule, but I gotta put them in. I gotta give Pat Mahomes more credit than that.
We'll see.
Miami is that was a team that was out for me. That's why I was like, they may have a good year, but they might not make the playoffs. But it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight. NFC. Okay, I'm going to North. I'm gonna stay with the Packers. South, I'm gonna stay with the Bucks. I was tempted to go with the Saints, but I'm gonna stay Bucks. West, I'll go Rams, and East, I'm going Eagles. So kind of chalk. Those actually, I think, were the same division winners last year. In the wild card, I got the Vikings, I got the Saints, and I got the Cardinals. And yes, that means the Dallas Cowboys not making the playoffs, as I said earlier. Let's go with your NFC picks, Sham.
All right, so I got the Packers, of course. I have the Eagles taking the East.
Okay.
I think they're gonna have a better year. I got the Bucks taking the South. And I got the Rams taking the West. For my wild card spots, I got Arizona. I think they're gonna have a good year. I got Minnesota. I think they're gonna make it. I think they have a lot of good players. And for the last spot, I think San Francisco is gonna take it. I think the Niners. I think Trey Lance is gonna have a good year. I think he's got a lot of good pieces. I think they're gonna be able to make the playoffs.
So in each conference, we were all on the same page. That conference, we were all on the same page for all the division winners, and only missed on one wild card team. And in the AFC, even though we had division winners, we had 6 of the same 7 playoff teams. So each conference only one team off there. So very interesting. We are brothers, so that's maybe a hint for why we're thinking alike so much on those picks. All right, big part of the show, end of the show, Super Bowl pick. I am taking the LA Chargers over the Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow, the Chargers are gonna win the Super Bowl.
I'm going with it all, man. And it scares me to death because I still don't know about this coach. I really don't know about Brandon Staley. But I think they have the best roster in the NFL. I know people run to the Buffalo Bills. Bills have a good roster. I think the Chargers have a better running game. I think their weapons and the receiving core are just as good as a tandem. I think their offensive line is just as good. I think their defense is just as good. I think their pass rushers are just as good. I mean, the Chargers have it all. I think the only thing you would say is Allen's better than Herbert, maybe. And I think Herbert's going to show that he's one of the upper echelon elite quarterbacks in the NFL. So I got them coming out of the AFC. I have the Eagles going to the Super Bowl. I talked about them highly here. And I just think those other teams, I think they're going to show their age in the postseason. I think the Packers and Bucks and Rams, as good as those teams are, and they'll still be good in the regular season, I think you'll see them show their age a little bit. All those teams are getting a little older. I don't think they'll be as healthy by the time we get to the postseason. I think the Eagles will be younger. They'll be fresher. And I think that you'll see them maybe with home field advantage because they play in such an easy division as well. That would be a key part in this. So I think the Bills will have the best record in the AFC. I think that the Chargers win an upset game to get to the Super Bowl. I think the Eagles ride home field advantage to get to the Super Bowl. And then you got the Chargers and Eagles in the Super Bowl. I'm going with the Chargers. So there you go. What do you got here? Super Bowl pick, Jam.
All right, my Super Bowl pick. All right, I mean, it may not be as bold as some people think, but I'm gonna go Cincy. I think the Bengals are gonna win it, and I'll say they beat Tampa.
Okay.
I think Tampa's gonna make it back. I think Brady's gonna give a last hurrah. I think
Burrow versus Brady is an excellent.
yeah,
Story.
that'll be a hell of a Super Bowl. But I think that's what we're gonna see. And I think I think this is going to be one of those pass of the torch kind of moments. You know, I think because it's just a special kind of talent. You know, it's a special kind of it factor talent that you just don't see very often. But it's just, I just think he's got what it takes to lead this team to a Super Bowl. So, or lead them to a Super Bowl win. He's already led them to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my prediction.
All right, and that's an NFL preview podcast, and
those are some stats for your ass.
Hope you enjoyed that. I've been waiting to play that. There was no place to play it. I was like,
the great Coast Guard.
Yes, I'm playing the great Coast Guard, the great Samuel Jackson at some point in this show after I downloaded that cut, and I was like, I'm going to find a way. And I found a way. So thank you all for listening in to the NFL preview show. Of course, if you enjoyed this podcast, you can catch all of our shows on the New Generation Podcast Network. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Also, be sure to check us out on YouTube, New Generation Media. Make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, New Generation Pod, Instagram, New Generation Podcast, and Facebook, New Generation Media. You can also find us individually as well on social media. You can find Shamari on Snapchat and Instagram, MCShan22. You can find me on Twitter, EJ_Stewart, and on Instagram and TikTok, Action EJ. That'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. For Shamari, not Kendall. For Shamari, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.